Jeff Webb, it's wonderful to have you on American Thought Leaders.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Jeff, you know, when I think of you, I think of actually kind of the personification of the American dream. Is that a fair characterization? I don't want to make your head too big here, but
well, I appreciate you saying that. It's I've been very fortunate. I grew up in very much a middle class family, and went to public schools and University of Oklahoma, public school, great school in my opinion, by the way, and started business when I was 24, with really some just kind of startup capital from friends and family. Wasn't very much, and worked at it pretty hard for a lot of years, and was able to build it up to a very good sized company. Eventually, had 8,000 people working for the company, and it's been good. It's been great. I've been very, very fortunate.
So, tell me a little bit about, just for the benefit of our audience, about your company and where it's positioned in the American market,
Sure.
so to speak.
Sure. Yeah. Well, when I was at the University of Oklahoma, I was a yell leader on the cheerleading team, and when I got out of college, I started a company. The concept was to provide education, leadership, and skill training to college and high school cheerleaders across the country. And we were able to get that going in the Midwest and the South, eventually expanded it nationally. Then from there, got into providing uniforms and equipment for school spirit groups, and then finally created the concept of kind of a modern day cheerleading competition, which people now see and have seen for many years on television. And after that, we merged with a company called Herff Jones, which is the graduation business, and then BSN Sports,
Yeah.
Which had been founded and directed by a gentleman named Adam Blumenfeld. And we created Varsity Brands. Varsity Brands really is we position ourselves as the extracurricular partner to America's schools, where we can provide all these things, whether it's graduation and motivational sort of products, sporting goods, sports uniforms, and then the things that we do, Varsity Spirit does for school spirit groups.
And it's a $1 billion company. You forgot that part, I think.
Well, it's it's knocking on the door at a couple billion. That's a couple billion in sales. That's public knowledge. But as I said, we've got we have sales representatives in every single school, and really committed to providing great products and services for young people.
So, you heard the president speak yesterday, I believe, right?
I did.
What were your thoughts?
Oh, I thought he was in rare form. I've heard him a couple of times, and I thought he did an amazing job of relating to these young people and really explaining to them his thought process and where he's going and where the country's going and what is important. And I just think it's so critical for these young people to hear those things and to hear it from him. I mean, obviously they're all big fans. You saw the ovations, and I thought he did a great job.
He talked about the American dream, which I know you know well, and I think we've established that, and also the socialist nightmare and the juxtaposition. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that my new political organization that I've founded, called the New American Populist, is really right in the middle of this, because our mission is to help revitalize America's middle class. The middle class has been squeezed over the last 30 years. They're really, the wages have not kept up with the growth in our economy and expenses. 40% of American workers today live paycheck to paycheck. No money for retirement, no money for unexpected medical expenses, tuition, and they're squeezed. And we've had since NAFTA, we've had ultimately 70,000 factories closed in this country, 6 million manufacturing jobs lost. Long and short of it is, there's a challenge and there's a crisis there. And President Trump is the first president in 30 years to really take up the mantle of the middle class and create these policies and initiatives that can positively affect the middle class. Now, having said that, because the middle class has been squeezed for so long, when someone comes along, like the socialists and what the Democrats are doing now, and offer free tuition, free health care, free everything, it sounds pretty good when you've been challenged. So for us, but to me, that's bait and switch. It sounds good, they're going to get into it, but now what happens? Because you can't show me one socialist country that has a significant middle class. It's the elite and everybody else. So to me, it's bait and switch. For us, we identify the same problems as some of the people on the left. We just got different solutions. We don't think government's the answer.
So how have the policies of the last 2.5 years been for you as a business owner, significant business owner?
A ray of sunshine. First of all, lower taxes, not only lower corporate taxes, which I think has helped across the board. We've seen, companies really reinvest in their businesses, but also just lowering the actual individual tax rates. It's really given people a breather. It's given them a little more disposable income. So I think generally the uptick in the economy that has been created by this policy has been positive for most businesses.
And what challenges remain in your mind at this point?
Well, I think that there needs to, there are plenty of challenges, right? But I think that we've just had phase one on the tax law. I think that, again, we need to look at lowering rates again. At the same time, the one great challenge that nobody's really talking about, or they're talking about but nobody's got a solution, is the continuation of the national debt and the deficit that we have. It's a very tough nut to crack, but ultimately it will have to be cracked because we're going to leave a mess to our children and our grandchildren, which is unfair. But more deregulation, more energy exploration, which has created I think American energy independence is one of the most significant geopolitical developments of the past 50 years. There have been a lot of wars fought and a lot of lives lost, American lives in the Middle East. And let's face it, if there wasn't that oil and gas there, we wouldn't have fought those wars, probably. But I think really addressing what's happening with the cost of health insurance and trying to create more competition and more transparency, those two things in any business usually drive costs down. So there's lots to do. College tuition is another thing. The cost of college tuition in the last 20 years has gone up 200%. A lot of it caused by this, I think were good intentions with the student loan program, which unfortunately there's always the unintended consequences. So that's going to have to be dealt. There's plenty of opportunities of things to deal with.
So, you're focusing very much on, as you were saying, revitalizing the middle class.
Yes.
Seems like the president has a similar message. Did you make this decision after you understood the president's platform or before? Or how does this work together?
I would say it was maybe in conjunction with it, not intentionally.
Right.
But there's no doubt that most of the things that he is doing, we totally agree with. And we think, again, he's the first president in 30 years to really address these sort of problems that affect everyday Americans. So we support those, but we also think he needs a lot of help. Okay. We don't think he's getting enough help, so we're going to provide that. What's
your expectation for 2020?
Well, I think the president's going to be reelected. I think that one of the most important things we could do, frankly, is flip the House back to Republican control because I think the things that the Democrats are doing, unfortunately, this was not always the case, but the party's become so liberal, almost radical, and they've dug their heels in so much to whatever President Trump is for, whether many of the things he's been for, what they used to be for, and whatever he's for, they're against. So something has to give if we're going to keep making progress for the middle class.
And what is the role of the middle class going to be in the re-election of the president that you're predicting?
Well, I think there's no doubt that President Trump and the policies he was recommending in 2016 and many of the things he has now implemented, following through on his promises, I think resonate with the middle class. There's no doubt. And I think that when you really look at how the demographics have changed with the two parties, I think that he is well positioned there. There's no doubt that there are some segments of the middle class, some people that maybe are not as enthusiastic, but I think by and large, I see it across the country. I think that there's a real energy there, and I expect it to play out in 2020 positively.
So you were telling me off screen just before we finish up here that a lot of students, a lot of teenage folks are basically really into business and so forth. Is this one of the reasons you're here?
Yeah, that's right. At this conference, Charlie and the team like for me to talk about my entrepreneurial journey and what it took to start my company as someone from the middle class and how I was able to build it. But in this generation, the surveys come back saying that between 50 and 70%, it goes back and forth between which read, but 50 and 70% of these young people, they want, their dream is to create and run their own business. It's extraordinary. It's you got to love the confidence and the willingness to do something exciting and important and meaningful. So, this they like for me to come and talk a little bit about how I was able to do the things that I did with my team. It wasn't just me, and then also to maybe talk about the importance of their also being politically involved at the same time.
Okay, well, great place to end. Jeff Webb, such a pleasure.
Thank you, my pleasure.